I felt the same way until I did the research and discovered these 3 ETFs. Now I don't have to do any more research for the rest of my life if I wanted to. I could just invest into these 3 forever and be totally fine. You are smart enough to know that investing is likely the wisest thing you can do with your money. But it's also so complicated doing all the research and watching the stock go up and down and knowing when to sell or buy seems so stressful. Like you, I believed that since money is working even while I'm asleep, it would work harder than anything else. I took the risk since I've always enjoyed business and been captivated by particular corporations. I started doing as much research as I could, spending 4 to 6 hours every day for several months reading every book, blog, and article I could find on the subject. I consequently questioned what I wanted. Do I want to invest, or do I desire the potential rewards of investing? The latter is the obvious response, and I'm betting that's also true for you. I desired leisure, independence, financial freedom, and all other forms of liberation. When I returned to the research hub, it was immediately clear that I intended to invest in ETFs. ETFs are essentially a collection of firm stocks that, thanks to the fund's diversity, assist investors manage the risk. This is so simple that your grandmother can probably do it. And she probably already is. And she's probably making more money overall over the long term than half of Wall Street. But I digress. This video will show you the 3 ETFs you need to own. And I think this will give you the ideal portfolio. I'm going to give you 2 options from each type of ETF so you can conduct some additional study, which I usually advise. There are only 3 guidelines that must be followed for each of these categories. The first guideline is to never select both options from a single category. Sometimes consumers choose a number of ETFs from the same category, but all they are doing is spreading their money thin across numerous ETFs, which only adds to their stress. The second guideline is to be extremely consistent no matter what. We'll get to it in a moment. The third rule is to make sure you figure out what you are investing for and what your goal is. Set up an automatic debit for the whole amount you feel comfortable investing each month. Just $250 every month for the next 40 years translates to over $1.3 million, and that's without even mentioning dividends and passive income. But let's not go too far ahead of ourselves. So quickly returning to rule number 2, you must determine what your end goal is. Would you prefer it to be a very large lump sum that you won't receive until retirement age or about 40 years from now? Or would you prefer something to start growing in that manner while also allowing you to receive dividends that you will begin seeing in 10 or 20 years? If you are nearing retirement age and have a sizable amount of money to invest, consider investing the majority of it in a dividend-style ETF because you are less concerned about long-term growth and more interested in how to generate passive income now. Once you have determined your priorities, let's discuss the 3 different types of ETFs. Therefore, I always advise clients to start with the first category of ETF. According to me, this is the basis for practically everything in investing, and this would be a fund that essentially mirrors or represents the entire stock market. The first ETF in this category that I suggest is VTI, a Vanguard fund that represents the whole stock market. This comprises more than 4,000 different company stocks, an extremely low expense ratio of 0.03%, and an average annual growth rate of 11%. The second ETF in this category that I really like is VU, which tracks the S&P 500 and is another Vanguard fund. This fund has more than 500 company stocks, but it only includes the top 500 in terms of market capitalization in the United States. It also has an expense ratio of just 0.03%, and over the past 10 years, it has increased by an average of more than 11.5%. Now, the reason I recommend either is what you'll see in this chart here. When you compare both, you can see that VU has a small advantage, but they are essentially equal. Taking a look at their top holdings, they are also pretty comparable. all things considered, these are really comparable. So when people ask me which one I prefer, VTI or VU, I say VU. Although I prefer the top 500 US firms over the entire stock market, both of them are sound investments based only on the numbers. Okay, let's move on to the following category, which is growth. This one can be the most turbulent, but it's also possibly the most exciting and fun. It can rise significantly, but it can also fall significantly. And I believe we are currently witnessing the latter. The Invesco QQQ Trusts ETF, QQQ, is the first in this category that I really enjoy. With more than 100 firm stocks, this one has a very high development potential in terms of technology, including blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, and AI. Although it is more expensive than the other one, its cost ratio of 0.2% is still reasonable for a growth fund. As you can see, during the past 10 years, annual appreciation has been roughly 16% on average. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about investing. Let's return to the video. The second growth ETF that I recommend and really like is VUG, and that is the Vanguard Growth ETF. This one has been growing like crazy, and it makes sense because our technology has been growing like crazy over the last 10 years and supercharged during the pandemic. This one contains over 250 company stocks, making it more diverse but still strongly weighted on strong growth companies. Its expense ratio is only 0.04%, making it 5 times cheaper than QQQ, but its appreciation rate over the past 10 years hasn't been as high at 12.9%. Over the past 10 years, both of these have utterly destroyed it, but at the moment, both of them are being severely battered, so bear that in mind. Re-examining them together reveals nearly identical returns. This is cost, even though QQQ has a greater actual return by the fund's expenditure ratio, which puts your realized gains close to the top. Since 10 holdings and these two are nearly comparable, you could choose just one of them, even though I think everyone should be exposed to growth. Okay, moving on to this third category, which is a high dividend yield ETF. Both of these dividend ETFs include only companies earning a high dividend yield and are quite reliable in paying out that yield frequently. Recently, I've been investing extensively in this category. Just so you know, anything above 6% to 7% starts really eating into the company's bottom line. So if they're paying that out, it's usually an introductory rate to get you to start investing in the company. But they can't sustain that over the long term, and since the whole point of investing in dividends is to invest over the long term so that you can get passive income over the long term, it just doesn't make sense. Stop doing that, everyone, and keep in mind that your main priorities as a dividend investor should be consistency and very minimal risk. You can place the larger risk in the growth ETF from before, but this dividend ETF or dividend stocks in general shouldn't be that dangerous, and these two are as reliable as they come. The Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, symbol VYM, is the first one. It holds around 450 firms. It has a very low expenditure ratio of just 0.06%, and it has had an average increase of 10 over the past 10 years, which is crucial in this situation. This ETF offers a respectable dividend yield of 3.39% and a very respectable dividend growth rate, which effectively implies that your dividends are compounding interest annually as well. VYM, which I can't emphasize enough, is a very strong choice if you go with it, but this next item is my personal favorite on the list. This next ETF, a dividend fund, has a 10-year average gain rate of 12% per year and a current dividend yield of 3.73%, nearly 15% greater than VYM. Here we have the Schwab US Dividend ETF, SCHD. According to the chart, VYM appears to have a little edge, but what I like to see is that SCHD has had a lot more consistent return over here in the 3, 5, and 10-year timeframes. Once more, consistency is what I'm after in dividend investing. Overall, there are a ton of secrets and specific explanations on why I believe that SCHD may be the finest ETF available. I spent around 100 hours researching for this video alone before condensing it into a roughly 10-minute film that you must view right away. Hope you have learned something from this video. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like button and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for you to be updated on our latest videos. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Want to learn more and be more financially literate? Click on the next videos we have in our channel, showing on the screen right now.